2 presents Hancock and Kelley.
A good Sunday morning to you. Welcome to Hancock and Kelley on Fox 2, where we take on the top issues of the week. On the right is John Hancock.
Good morning.
On the left, Michael Kelley.
Good morning.
And I'm Andy Banker. On the agenda, a photo op with Senate candidate Lucas Kunce and former Congressman Adam Kinzinger shooting rifles. What could go wrong? Well, a news reporter ended up getting wounded. The crush of early voting hits the St. Louis area. Record numbers, long lines. Is that telling us something? Firebrand Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas comes home to St. Louis and predicts big things for Democrats on Election Day. And our quote of the week is from St. Louis County Executive Sam Page. He rips Rams owner Stan Kroenke as yet another legal fight is looming. Also, key takeaways from our exclusive campaign special this past week on Amendment 2, sports betting in Missouri. Plus, Donald Trump, the fry cook, and Kamala Harris's celebrity bandwagon. But we begin with Democrat candidate for the U.S. Senate from Missouri, Lucas Kunce, who held a rifle shooting photo op and ended up having to render first aid to a news reporter who suffered a graze wound to his arm.
Me and Adam Kinzinger were out there, and we were kind of taking turns on the range, and it seems like a fragment off of either a target or bullet ricocheted off and nicked a reporter in the arm. And so, you know, when we saw it, we administered first aid, put a bandage on him. He's great. He seems like he's fine.
Again, Kunce was joined by former Illinois Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger. The injury occurred while Kunce was shooting. There's been no public apology from Kunce that we know of, or any admission that he failed to take proper safety measures. Instead, he's taking credit for treating the reporter's arm wound. Our exclusive new Next Star Emerson College The Hill poll shows the incumbent Republican Senator Josh Hawley at plus 50% with a 10-point lead over Kunce and less than 7% undecided. John, your thoughts about this gun incident and how Kunce is handling it?
Well, you know,
Also the poll.
Yeah, I advise candidates, professionally, and I tend to advise my clients not to shoot reporters. It's not a good look. He's losing by 10 points here. He's trying to run an unorthodox campaign, and the result's going to be about what it was 6 years ago with Josh Hawley. And I just don't see making much of a difference here. And now we know why Lucas Kunce runs around with a first aid kit in his pocket all the time. He needs it.
Is there a better way for him to address this or handle this, make it about gun safety? Could have flip it around and say, hey, I learned something, as opposed to saying, look how well I treated this guy's arm.
Yeah, well, I think that would kind of go contrary to the image he's putting out, which is both he and Josh Hawley are putting out this very macho persona. That looked like they were shooting stuff awfully close there. And look, this was a less than ideal day for the campaign. I think what was to be a photo op, hopefully connecting with folks who are fighting for Second Amendment rights, winds up ending that way. It's a debacle, but just to apologize and move on and get back focused on the race.
Could Hawley err in making too much of this? He's mentioning it all the time. He tells reporters at his campaign stops now, hey, I'm not going to shoot you.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's an unforced error by Kunce, and Hawley's taking advantage of it. This race is pretty settled in now. 10 points is about right with the polling, the internal polling that I've seen. And I think Hawley's going to win this thing pretty convincingly.
Yeah, Hawley's not going to shoot anybody. He's known to incite riots to get others to shoot you.
A reminder, don't miss our debate night in Missouri, the race for the U.S. Senate. Thursday night at 7 on Fox 2. It's these two candidates' only one-on-one televised debate. John and Michael will join me for a 30-minute preview special at 6:30, taking us right up to debate time. That's Thursday night. Can't wait. Easily more than 100,000 voters in the St. Louis area aren't waiting on the debate. They've already voted. Early voting locations in St. Louis City and County, along with St. Charles County, have been swamped since no excuse absentee early voting started Tuesday. Elections officials were predicting early voting to account for about 10 to 20% of the total turnout. They've now changed that to 25 to 30%, maybe higher. They're having to add election judges, even traffic cops in St. Charles County. What does that tell you, Michael Kelley?
Well, I think it tells us two things. Number one, people are engaged in this election and want to participate. And number two, maybe there's a psychology that I had, which was voting earlier kind of makes it feel like this election's over with. And look, this is a new opportunity that's afforded to Missouri voters. I think people are taking advantage of it. The fact that there's high turnout in the urban areas, I think, is good for Democrats. I have to assume it's the same for the rural areas, and that would be good for Republicans.
It's happening across the country.
Yeah.
Is that good for Democrats or Republicans? Or
I think it's good for voting. You would expect, I would expect, that the early voting figures are going to favor Harris in the presidential race because Republicans tend to vote on Election Day. That may be changing. We'll find out. And one of the things to keep an eye on is the results come in. We're going to know from exit polling data not who's voting for whom, but we're going to know what the turnout is in these states. And if the turnout in the 7 battlegrounds is 60% or under, Donald Trump's going to win. If it gets to be 65% or over, that probably means Kamala Harris is your next president.
Really? You agree with that?
Yep.
Our exclusive, your local election headquarters campaign special on Amendment 2, the proposal to legalize sports betting in Missouri, aired right here Thursday night on Fox 2. It re-airs 2 days before Election Day, Sunday night, November 3rd at 10:30. Supporters like St. Louis Cardinals team president Bill DeWitt and the leading opponents, a group called Missourians Against the Deceptive Online Gambling Amendment, laid out their cases to voters.
Happening illegally in our state, but also just crossing state borders. And all that tax revenue could be available for Missouri education if it's legalized.
I think Missourians are really, really tired of education being used, as this carrot at the end of a stick, especially when the claims are so disingenuous.
John, which side do you think has been more effective in making their case?
Well, the education message in any of these initiatives doesn't have a lot of credibility with voters. And it's been that way going all the way back to the lottery. So you've got an uphill hill to climb if you're the pro-Amendment 2 side. They've done a better job of late talking about how everybody around us has this, and Missourians are missing out, and the revenue, whether you believe it goes to education or not, it will go to Missouri if this thing passes. And that message, I think, is a stronger one than relying on people buying that this is new money going to education.
Who do you think's done a better job at convincing voters here?
Well, I think the most consequential thing right now is that there is no opposition to this. For prior to about a week and a half ago, there was millions of dollars being spent. There's some type of détente that's taking place between these billionaire gambling corporations. They've taken down their ads. And now the question is with early voting and 2 weeks of no opposition, was there enough damage inflicted prior to that to be problematic? Polling shows that it's going to be extremely close, and that could be the case.
Yeah, it was Missouri casinos. We need to point out again, I think we talked about this in the special. But Missouri casinos controlled by Caesars were pumping more than $10 million, almost 15, into the campaign to defeat this.
They did.
And then they started pulling back the money in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, they reached an agreement. I think the casinos are going to be able to have these sports books. If they've got multiple facilities in the state, they'll have a sports book at each one of them. That's something they wanted. And but you spend $10 or $15 million on the no side in Missouri, that can be pretty impactful.
The impact's already out there from that, right? They can pull the money back in, but they can't take away the messages that's been running for.
Sure, yeah. I mean, there was another message contrary to that for the last month. Now, prior to early voting, they had some time where there was a one-sided argument. It will be close.
You may recognize Democrat Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett as the person who body-shamed Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene after Greene made a comment about Crockett's false eyelashes. That was back in May. Well, Jasmine Crockett is from St. Louis. She returned this past week to campaign for Vice President Kamala Harris and Illinois Congresswoman Nikki Budzinski. She says she doesn't buy the recent bump in polls for former President Trump.
When we look at the first time that Trump ran for president, every single poll said that Hillary was going to win, and she didn't. When we look at what happened even in the House, it was supposed to be a red wave, and it wasn't.
Crockett and her former schoolmate, Missouri State Senator Brian Williams, visited students at their old school, Jefferson Elementary in North County. Michael, she points to the Dobbs effect, referring to the Supreme Court ruling on abortion that overturned Roe versus Wade, saying Democrats have overperformed in House races by 15 to 20 points, she says, since that ruling.
She's making a compelling and accurate argument. Donald Trump, since the first time he came down the golden elevator, that was the first and only election he's won. Every election since then that's been a referendum on him, he's lost. That's going the way of the Democrats, no doubt about it. Early voting is happening. We're seeing in the early voting numbers across the country that women are showing up in much bigger numbers than men. And that obviously discriminates towards the Democrats, particularly with abortion on in a lot of these states. I think there is a steady wave about to come, and it's going to swamp whatever optimism I think maybe showed right now in the polls for Donald Trump.
Are they right? Is he right? Is Jasmine Crockett right?
Well, what we don't know is the polling is either right or it's wrong. If it's right, Donald Trump's going to win. He's up right now in all 7 of the battleground states. Marginally, but he's up. If the polling is wrong, is it wrong as it was in 2016 where it undervalued Donald Trump's support in the country? Or is it wrong as it was in 2022 when it said Republicans were going to win all these congressional races?
Right.
They did
The
not.
red wave she talked about.
So we don't know. But if the polling's accurate, Donald Trump's going to win.
Up next on Hancock and Kelley, will the parade of celebrities endorsing Kamala Harris sway voters, and the power of a photo op done right? Donald Trump's McDonald's fry cook episode.